First, I'd like to point out that what this advisory opinion means is that the question here in Belém is not whether states have obligations to act on climate change. The court has already answered that. The only question here now is whether parties will honor these obligations or will they openly choose to ignore them. At the opening of this summit, the UN Secretary General called the failure to keep 1.5 degrees Celsius within reach a moral failure of deadly negligence. The ICJ's opinion tells us that this is not just a moral failure, it is also a legal one. If countries knowingly pursue pathways that overshoot 1.5 degrees Celsius, they are not simply making a political choice, they are breaching their duties to prevent serious harm and protect present and future generations. Second, this advisory opinion gives us a yardstick for the fights that we're now seeing that has been moved to ministers in week 2. In finance, in closing the ambition gap and loss and damage, and also in the global stocktake. Specifically on finance, the court was crystal clear that states, especially those with greater capabilities and historical responsibility, must cooperate to address loss and damage and support adaptation. So when we haggle the numbers in the negotiation rooms, the timelines and the finance goals in the coming days, the question is not what is politically convenient, but the question is, does this package meet the legal duty to support those suffering the worst impacts of climate change? On mitigation, we're seeing intense debates over how fast and how fairly should we phase out fossil fuels. Civil society and experts are reminding negotiators that a fast, fair, and fair fossil fuel phase-out is essential to close the ambition gap, especially here in the Amazon, where deforestation and oil expansion would push us past planetary tipping points. The ICJ's opinion reinforces that continuing to expand fossil fuels, knowing the harm, is incompatible with states' legal obligations. And third, I wanted to draw attention to what is happening outside the negotiation rooms. This week, thousands of indigenous peoples and activists marched in the streets of Belém, calling for a real protection of the Amazon and for their voices to be heard around the world. The demands of activists echo another core message of the court, that climate change is a human rights crisis and that states must pay particular attention to those who are most vulnerable and least responsible. If this COP sidelines those voices, it is not only politically tone deaf, it is out of step with the human rights-based obligations that the ICJ has highlighted. And so finally to say that the ICJ sets the moral compass for COP30, and that is in 3 simple things. It sets the direction, it sets the boundary, and it sets the test for integrity. COP30 has been called the COP of truth. The ICJ has already told us the legal truth. Now the question for negotiators and ministers in the coming days is, will they let that truth guide the text, or will they try to negotiate around it? Thank you.